Taking from the Broadview Anthology of British Literature, Concise Edition, Volume A, Second Edition. We're looking at page 861 with an introduction to Robert Herrick, 1591 to 1674. Of the sons of Ben, who basked in the genius of Ben Jonson in 1620s London, Robert Herrick is the poet most familiar to modern readers, more so to many readers than Jonson himself. "Gather ye rosebuds while ye may," the opening line of Herrick's To the Virgins, to make much more of time, is the most famous version of a classical refrain, while poems such as Delight in Disorder and the Hawk Cart are fixtures in anthologies. That Herrick fame rests on a few crystalline lyrics obscures the fact that he possesses a fairly varied repertoire. Herrick emulated Jonson, whom he called Saint Ben, not only in editing and publishing his own complete works, but also in cultivating and Englishing a number of classical poets. Herrick's Hesperides, 1648, contains epigrams, epistles, odes, eclogues, and other lyric forms. Over 1,400 poems in all, on a variety of themes. The pastoral features prominently in Hesperides, as does the amorous. 158 poems are addressed to 14 separate mistresses, most of whom seem to be the products of Herrick's literary imagination, and the political poems, such as Upon Julia's Clothes, express an aesthetics of sensuality. The best of these poems had been circulating in manuscript for decades before they were published, and some had become popular songs, yet set to music by Henry Lawes and others. Hesperides appeared during a period of political upheaval and civil war, and achieved little notice in Herrick's lifetime. Its often light, bucolic tone did not match the seriousness of the time. Its occasional indecency offended some, and his noble numbers, the religious verse appended to it, seemed flat and undistinguished. No separate volume of Herrick's poetry was published again until 1810, but once his poetry had been rediscovered, the romantic attraction to pastoral and rural themes made Herrick popular with the 19th century anthologists. If subsequent critics have never quite endorsed Algernon Charles Swinburne's extravagant praise of Herrick as the greatest songwriter ever born of English race, recent consensus has raised his status among mid-17th century poets thanks to a deeper appreciation of his cunning and delicate artistry, the clever scope and organization of Hesperides, and the political implications of his celebration of traditional rites and pastime. The son of a London goldsmith, Herrick apprenticed in that craft before attending Cambridge, from which he graduated in 1617. After years spent mostly in London, cultivating patrons and literary friendships with Ben Jonson and others, he moved to Devonshire to become a vicar of Dean Prior in 1629. Ousted from his living by the triumphant parliamentary forces in 1647, Herrick, in his return to London, shed no tears for the dull confines of the drooping West. Indeed, lamenting the economic necessity that had condemned him to such a long and irksome banishment, he returned to Dean Prior at his own request after the Restoration in 1660, however, to live out the remainder of his bachelor's life, ministering to his rude flock. In Discontents in Devon, Herrick confesses his ambivalence towards country life. I ne'er invented such ennobled numbers for the press, then where I loathed so much. In fact, the Epicurean bent of Herrick's classical models had prepared him well for versifying the joys of the natural world and infusing them with the echoes of what Puritans, doubtless correctly, thought the residual paganism he found in the rural festivals and rituals, as he does impeccably in Corinna's Gone a Maying. In the argument of his book, his verse preface to Hesperides, he announces himself as a poet of nature, as it was perceived in his day. Ceremony and times trans-shifting, linking natural cycles and the transience of nature's creatures to the inevitability of aging and death. Just as the title of his book recalls the island garden of classical myth, a sea-guarded place of golden apples, maidens, and a vigilant dragon, Herrick views nature and the natural cycles of work and play, including festivals and holidays, as providing shelter against ravages of time, mortality, and civil strife. An ardent royalist, Herrick would also have approved of the political role such rural festivals played in reinforcing traditional hierarchies and social stability. Not surprisingly, these holidays, including Sunday sports, had been espoused and encouraged in the Book of Sports, issued by the Stuart kings, but deplored and condemned by the Puritans as profanations of the Sabbath and excuses for drunkenness. Herrick's conservative political and natural Epicureanism leave no doubt as to his stand on the issue. From his classical models, Herrick had learned to express a carefully cultivated simplicity of outlook that sets him apart from the smooth urbanity and self-conscious sophistication of the Cavalier poets and the strenuous spiritual strivings of the metaphysical poets. For Herrick, or at least for the persona he constructs, mortality must either be confronted by seizing and enjoying the pleasures of today, carpe diem, as the Romans put it, or transcending by achieving poetic immortality. Although he seems to have been a sincere Christian and wrote some fine religious verse, to live merrily and to trust to good verses, the memorial title of one of his lyrics might be cited as Herrick's ultimate advice to posterity. The argument of his book. I sing of books, of blossoms, birds, and bowers, of April, May, and June, and July flowers. I sing of maypoles, hawk carts, wassels wake, of bridegroom's bride and their bridal cakes. I write of youth, of love, and have access by these to sing of cleanly wantonness. I sing of dews, of rains, and piece by piece, of balm, of oil, of spice, and ambergris. I sing of times, trends shifting, and I write how roses first come red and lilies white. I write of groves, of twilights, and I sing the court of Mab and the fairy king. I write of hell, I sing, and ever shall, of heaven and hope to have it after all. 1648. Delight in disorder. Sweet disorder in the dress kindles in clothes and wantonness, a lawn about the shoulders thrown into a fine distraction, an earring lace which here and there enthralls the crimson stomacher, a cuff neglectful, and thereby ribbons to flow confused lay, a winning wave deserving note in a tempestuous petticoat, a careless shoestring in whose tie I see a wild civility. Do more bewitch me than when art is too precise in every part. 1648. His farewell to Sack. Farewell, thou thing, time past so known, so dear, to me as blood, to life and spirit near. Nay, thou more near than kindred, friend, man, wife, male to the female, soul to body life. To quick action, or the warm soft side of the resigning yet resisting bride. The kiss of virgins, first fruits of the bed, soft speech, smooth touch, the lips, the maidenhead. These and the thousand sweets could never be so near or dear as thou wast once to me. O thou, the drink of gods and angels, wine, that scattereth spirit and lust, whose purest shine, more radiant than the summer's sunbeams show, each way illustrious, brave, and like to those comets we see by night, whose shagged portents foretell the coming of some dire advance, or some full flame which with a pride aspires, throwing about 'tis wild and active fires. 'Tis thou above nectar, O divinest soul, eternal in thyself, that canst control that which subverts whole nature, grief and care, vexation of the mind, and damned despair. 'Tis thou alone who with thy mystic fan workest more than wisdom, art, or nature can, to rouse the sacred madness and awake the frost-bound blood and spirits, and to make them frantic with thy raptures flashing through the soul like lightning, and as active too. 'Tis not Apollo can or those thrice three Castalian sisters sing if wanting thee. Horace, Anacreon, both had lost their flame. Hadst thou not filled them with thy fire and flame? Phoebean splendor, and thou Thespian spring, of which sweet swans must drink before they sing their true pace numbers and their holy lays, which makes them worthy cedar and the bays. But why longer do I gaze upon thee with the eye of admiration? Since I must leave thee, and enforced must stay, to all thy witching beauties go away. But if thy whimpering looks do ask me why, then know that nature bids thee go, not I. 'Tis her erroneous self has made a brain uncapable of such a sovereign as is thy powerful self. Prithee not smile, or smile more inly, lest thy looks beguile my vows denounced in zeal, which thus much show thee that I have sworn but thy looks to know thee. Let others drink thee freely, and desire thee and their lips espoused, while I admire and love thee, but not taste thee. Let my muse fail of thy former helps, and only use her inadulterate strength. What's done by me hereafter shall smell of the lamp, not thee. 1648. Karina's going a maying. Get up for shame, the blooming morn upon her wings present the god unshorn. See how Aurora throws her fair, fresh quilted colors through the air. Get up, sweet slug, a bed, and see the dew bespangling herb and tree. Each flower has wept and bowed towards the east, above an hour since, yet you were not dressed. Nay, not so much as out of bed, when all the birds have matins said, and sunk their thankful hymns. 'Tis sin, nay, profanation, to keep in. Whenas 1,000 virgins on this day spring sooner than the lark to fetch in May, rise and put on your foliage, and be seen to come forth like the springtime, fresh and green. And sweet Flora, take no care for jewels for your gown or hair. Fear not, the leaves will strew gems in abundance upon you. Besides, the childhood of the day has kept against you come some orient pearls unwept. Come and receive them, while the light hangs on the dewlocks of the night, and Titan on the eastern hill retires himself, or else stands still. Till you come forth, wash, dress, be brief in praying. Few beads are best when once we go a-maying. Come on, Karina, come, and coming mark how each field turns a street, each street a park, made green and trimmed with trees. See how devotion gives each house a bough or branch, each porch, each door. Ere this, an ark, a tabernacle is, made up of whitethorn and neatly interwove, as if here were those cooler shades of love. Can such delights be in the street, and open fields, and we not seat? Come, we'll abroad, and let's obey the proclamation made for May, and sin no more as we have done by staying. But my Karina, come, let's go a-maying. There's not a budding boy or girl this day but it's got up and gone to bring in May. A deal of youth ere this is come back, and with whitethorn laden home. Some have dispatched their cakes and cream before that we have left to dream, and some have wept and wooed and plighted troth, and chose their priest ere we can cast off sloth. Many a green gown has been given, many a kiss both odd and even. Many a glance, too, has been sent from out the eye love's firmament. Many a jest told of the keys betraying this night and locks picks, yet we're not a man. Come, let us go while we are in our prime, and take the harmless folly of the time. We shall grow old apace and die before we know our liberty. Our life is short, and our days run as fast away as does the sun, and as vapor or a drop of rain, once lost, can ne'er be found again. So when or you or I are made a fable song or fleeting shade, all love, all liking, all delight lies drowned with us in endless night. Then while time serves and we are all but decaying, come, my Corinna, come, let's go a man. 1648. To the virgins, to make much of time, gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Old time is still a flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, the nearer he's to setting. That age is best which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent, the worst and worst times still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while ye may go merry, for having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry. 1648. The Hawk Cart, or Harvest Home, to the Right Honourable Mildmay, Earl of Westmoreland. Come, sons of summer, by whose toil we are the lords of wine and oil, by whose tough labours and rough hands we rip up first, then reap our lands. Crowned with the ears of corn, now come, and to the pipe sing harvest home. Come forth, my lord, and see the cart, dressed up with all the country art. See here a malkin, there a sheet, as spotless pure as it is sweet. The horses, mares, and frisking fillies, clad all in linen, white as lilies. The harvest swains, the wenches bound, for joy to see the hawk cart crowned. About the cart hear how the rout of rural younglings raise the shout, pressing before, some coming after, those with stout and these with laughter. Some bless the cart, some kiss the sheaves, some prank them up with oaken leaves, some cross the fill horse, some with great devotion stroke the home-born weight, while others, rustics, less attent to prayers than to merriment, run after with their breeches rent. Well on, brave boys, to your lord's hearth, glittering with fire, where for your mirth. You shall see first the large and chief foundation of your feast, fat beef, with upper stories mutton veal, and bacon which makes full the meal, with several dishes standing by, as here a custard, there a pie, and here all tempting, frumentary, and for to make the merry cheer, if smirking wine be wanting there, there's that which drowns all care, stout beer, which freely drink to your lord's health, when the plough the common wealth. Next to your flails, your fanes, your vats, then to the maids with wheaten hats, to the rough sickle and crooked scythe, drink frolic, boys, till all be blithe. Feed and grow fat, and as ye eat, be mindful that the laboring neat, as you may have their fill of meat, and know besides ye must revoke the patient ox until the yoke, and all go back unto the plough, and harrow though they're hanged up now. And you must know your Lord's word true, feed him you must, whose food fills you, and that this pleasure is like rain, not sent ye for to drown your pain, but for to make it spring again. 1648. Upon Julia's clothes. Whenas in silks my Julia goes, then when methinks how sweetly flows that liquefaction of her clothes. Next when I cast mine eyes and see that brave vibration each way free, oh how that glittering taketh me. 1648. And those were some selections from Robert Herrick, poet, 1591 to 1674.